So you're talking about like equivalence class partitioning. How do we do it actually when we have some ranges here defined? So based on these ranges that we are going to perform the equivalence partitioning technique. Okay. So we use that technique and we are going to write the test cases. Okay. So that's the performing is like we are selecting it. So as we discussed, like equivalence partitioning is the process of methodically reducing the huge set of possible test cases. As I said, like 1 to 100. So if you are need to write some test cases on these ranges, what we do is like we are going to take a defined set. Defined set is like valid and invalid. So we are going to do the partitions. Based on the partitions, we are going to select what is valid and what is invalid. Okay. So a group of test cases forms an equivalence case if you believe in that. Okay. They all they all test the same thing. That is, we are going to enter the minimum and maximum characters. Within that, we are going to enter the defined characters which are valid. Okay. So in that case, will go with this. So if we assume that one test case catches bug, the rest of the test cases would do the same thing. Okay. So and if it doesn't catch bug, then it rest of the cases that we are trying to execute on that particular feature, so would remain same. Okay. So that's the thing. But if you are finding the failure, then it will fail for the rest of the sets also. If it is not failing, then it will not fail for the rest of the sets. So that is what our assumption as we are going with the equivalence class partitioning. So how do we define this? So here you can see we have valid set. That's nothing but 1 to 100. It's like valid set, and 0 to less than 1 and greater than 100 is like invalid set. So as we discussed yesterday, we have group put them right. So in the same way, it's going to have the partitions here. So, and coming to the boundary value analysis, you can see this is like, a few boundaries. Here you can have invalid and this is like valid set. And here in the boundaries, you can see that most of the defects will be lacking at the boundaries. Okay. So, but how do we define those things? Here you can see. So valid boundary, valid boundary. What are invalid boundary? 0 is invalid boundary. And here 101 is like invalid boundary. Okay. Highest invalid and lowest invalid. So highest valid and lowest highest valid and lowest valid. So here you can see 1 and 0. So now, as we spoke about like some things like customer name. So these are the form. So generally bank, they may have this form with the requirements. See, here we have 2 to 64 characters and 6 digits. First non-digits in the next account number, and loan amount requested should be in between 500 to 9,000. Okay. So these are few requirements and terms of loan. So it should be 1 to 30 years and monthly repayment would be minimum 10. So now based on this, we are going to get the output of it. Okay. Term repayment, interest rate, total paid back. So if we fill up this form and we get the output of it. But here to fill up the form, we have some certain requirements here. Okay. So certain requirements. So we'll look into that. Okay. So what are the requirements that we have? So if you take about number of characters in the customer name, so invalid is like 1 and invalid is like 65. But what is the set that we have chosen to enter the data is like valid. So that is 2 to 64 characters. Okay. 2 to 64, minimum 2 characters and maximum 64 characters. So which is like a valid set. So valid characters which are allowed is like capital letters and small letters, underscore and the space. Any other which would come will be like invalid. Okay. So here you can see conditions defined. So valid partition, this is valid partition. 2 to 64 characters is like valid partition. Invalid is like less than 2, greater than 64 characters. These are invalid characters. Okay. Invalid set of characters which we are trying to enter. Valid boundaries is like 2 characters and 64 characters are like valid boundaries. So when you enter minimum 2 characters and maximum 64 characters, those are like valid boundaries. Invalid is like trying to enter only 1 character, trying to enter more than 64 characters. That's like 65 onwards. And 0 characters when you put it as like, empty field. So it is mandatory and you should enter some data. But if you set 0 characters, that's going to throw the error. Okay. So after that, we have some condition templates here. So don't worry about this. What is everything? So template would be different for each and every test case when we are talking about like ranges, when we are trying to implement the equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis. So here I have taken some example here, condition template. So this is according to my assumptions that I have prepared the template. Okay. So valid partitions here you can see for the customer name. So we are calling it as like version 1, version 2, valid 1, valid 2. We can call it like versions. We can still have these versions defined here. And just I'm talking about like V1 is like, kind of a tag that I'm putting to identify it is like valid. valid 1, valid 2. Okay. So here valid 2, valid 3, valid 4, valid 5. So customer name will have two sets of things. One is like valid, another one is like invalid. This field has like valid and invalid. So this valid partition would be 264 and less than 2 and greater than 64 are invalid partition. It defines the same thing for boundaries also. Valid boundaries and invalid boundaries. Likewise, we have a lot of things, right? Customer name, account number, and loan account. Okay, so these are the fields that we have, and we have to define the valid and invalid sets in terms of both equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis. Now, how do we design the test cases? So here, see, this is like kind of some sample test cases that we have written. Description is like name John Smith, account number is 123456 and 2500, 3 years. So this is like, one set of test data that I'm going to provide as part of equivalence partitioning and boundary analysis using these techniques. So what is the output? Expected output is like terms 3 years, 79. And these are like something that is coming as part of like output. This calculation is done and we are going to get this output. So new tags, which are the tags that we have covered here? V1, V2, V3, V4, and V5. So these are the tags which are covered. Okay. So if I am talking about tags, you can see these are the tags which are covered as part of all the test cases. Okay. Customer name, account number, and loan amount. So now this is all up to us. Like, how do we design the test cases? Do you want to design the test cases based on the defined template, or we can have a separate template which we can create it? Okay. So I'll show you what are those templates actually. I've written some test cases, sample test cases. I'm going to explain what are those sample test cases and how do we define the template and how do we derive the test conditions. Okay. So let's talk about like test scenarios. Okay. I'm going to open an application. So HRM applications, because this application is live for us and we can use this application for writing the test cases. Okay. Sample test cases. How do we write the test case and what are the different templates that we can use? What are the terms that we are using as part of test cases that we are going to discuss? Okay. So Orange HRM, and here you have this login page. Okay. So what are the conditions that we are going to derive from the requirements of this application? One is like, I want to validate login page. Okay. So this is what the test condition what we have. Okay. Test conditions, test scenario. So this test scenario, what we are doing is like, here we are going to derive like validate login page. So what is the comment here? Validate login details along with content. Content on the page. Okay. So now let's talk about like template. Okay. So let's talk about like template. How do we create the template? So it's all based on the organizations. Okay. So if somebody may ask you like, what is your basic template that you use for writing the test cases or test scenarios? You can tell them that we have a very basic template that we are using and we want to maintain it it's kind of like, too easy to use. Okay. It's like whenever we create kind of test cases or test scenarios, so we want to make it like, very simple thing, because there are a lot of things that we can still use it as like a components for writing the test cases and test scenarios, but we are maintaining it very like, you can just say that we are using a very basic template. So this template, in case if they ask you like what is the template that you use, you can tell them like for deriving the test scenarios, we have scenario number, serial number, sorry, and then we have like test scenario ID, test scenario description, and comments. So what you define as part of test scenario ID is like, we are going to have the test scenario IDs, and test description is like, we are going to provide the description of that particular feature. And after that comments, in that comments, we are going to provide what are the things that we have to cover as part of this particular test scenario. Okay.
Hi,
So this,
sorry for disturbance.
Yeah.
Srikanth, can you please recreate this one separate one, because frankly telling, I don't have experience on Excel side. So
can you be louder? I'm not able to hear you properly.
Yeah, what I'm telling, can you please create a new one Excel sheet like this? Because I don't have a knowledge on Excel sheet, so if it is useful to me, if you explain me. I mean, how to design it like.
Yeah, it's very basic actually. See, what I'm going to do is like here I'm going to create, I'm going to take this Excel file and I'll just rename it. Just scenarios. That's all. You what you need to do is like you just need to make it as like a template. So this is the template that we have now. So now you can write what is that TS001 and description is like validate login page. Okay. Along with okay. So likewise we have to create it. So this is nothing but the template that I've created here. Okay. So this is very basic and we have a lot of things that we can include as part of this testing. We have something called who is author is like directly we can define there, but here we have like some prerequisites for test scenarios also. So you can put prerequisites or you can put the priority and then you can define the reference here. Screens for reference. So you can add the object here. So we have a lot of things here. We can add it. Insert data. We have option to insert the data also. Yeah. Go to this insert object. And if you want to create from the file, or if you want to add something like slideshows and everything, you can add it as a reference. It will be available here. So this is like very basic. And if you want to add few more things like what are the priorities, screens for references, or any other thing, author and versions, all these things are like, these are like optional. But few things what is required for us is like we need to have this scenario ID, description and comments. And if you have any screens for reference that we can add it, otherwise we can remove this. So it's like basic template that I have created here. So when we go to this test cases and how do we design the test cases? Like I'll just show you the test case. Remember? scenario ID for the coverage, and here we are going to add the test case ID. Test description, test steps, test steps. For that we have. So before this, you can just use some prerequisites. So what are the prerequisites that we have to cover as part of it? Expected results. Actual results. We have comments. So this I'm making very simple. There we have a lot of things that we can put as part of test case template. But here I'm making it very simple. Now, after this, you can see that you can still have this defect ID for mapping. Then we have like priority, P1 priority, severity. Then evidences you can add. Okay, likewise we can create the template. Okay, so this is all up to us actually. How do we exactly use it? But generally, I suggest people to have this template. Like this is not required. Just I'll hide it for some time. Like you can see, we have comments. Okay, so serial number. What is the serial number? One is the serial number, and test case ID. What is the test case that we are test scenario that we are referring? This is the test scenario. Okay, take this and copy it here. TC 001. Now you are going to write the validate login page details. So what are the prerequisites that we have? User should have access. Okay, steps is like now launch browser. So this is the first step that I'm going to write. So then after we are going to add like steps. What are the steps now? Enter URL. So what is that URL that we have? So this is a URL. Okay. So login. I'm just taking this as like a application under test. I'm using this URL. So I'm just formatting it, and this should be like kind of. So this is like, formatting. This should be like a basic Excel things that we are going to use here. So after this, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to check for login page content. Okay. Check for login page details. So expected results, what we have to see here is like expected result. Browser should be loaded. This is first expected result. And next what we have is like So there we can have like multiple expected results also. Okay. User be able to see HRM login page. Okay. And third, we are going to see that the name, password, along with login button should be displayed in the login page. Okay. So this is how we'll be writing the test cases. Okay. So actual results, when do we get this actual results? So this actual results will be like, whenever we are going to execute the application. For example, if we are executing this application, particular test case, what is the test case now? So launch the browser. Let us take like we are going to give the launch the Chrome browser here or Firefox browser. Okay. Launch Firefox browser. How do we launch? Just click on this browser. It will be launching the browser. Okay. You got the browser here. So what is that URL? What is that URL that we have to paste? So go to this particular test case and copy this URL. Go here. Enter this URL. Click on. Once you enter, you can see username and password. Okay. So what I'm going to validate here, first I'm going to validate the fields here. The username, login, and username, password, and login. These are the buttons it should be displayed. So what we say is like actual results, you can say pass. Okay. So here we can have one more thing that is nothing but test results. Okay. Test result, I'll say pass. Actual result as expected. So what, because it's working as expected, right? So we are going to die. Let us take if you find some defect. Okay. So I see any defect here. So what I'm going to do is like I'm going to raise the defect ID. Okay. So how do we raise it? So it's all depends on like what are the tools that we are going to use. If we are going to give the defect ID as like defect. So you say that defect 001. Okay. So this is priority. Okay. Severity 1. What is priority and severity? Priority defines how important the issue is like. Okay. And how emergency the issue is like. For example, if you are calling it as like a priority 1 test case, so this is nothing but it's kind of like very high priority in the sense this is like very important for us to execute. Okay. So severity is like what is the impact of that particular defect. Okay. For example, if you are not able to log in into the application, that is nothing but it's high priority and high severity. High priority is like how urgent the issue should be fixed, and the high severity is like how the impact, what is the impact of that particular issue. For example, if you see when I enter admin and admin 123, let us take like this is the password that I am entering. So when I click on this submit, then it is like it's not allowing me to log into the application. This is nothing but it is high severe and high priority. Okay. So it's kind of like a showstopper. We are not able to log into the application. Then what is the use of like, testing rest of the test cases? So that's nothing but we can't able to execute rest of the test cases. So what we say is like here we are going to create a defect with the high priority and high severity. Okay. So any one of the thing will be managed in the organizations. Like you consider it as like a priority or you consider it as like a severity. One of the factors will be considered. Both of the things like, it's very difficult us to manage for both of the things. Okay. Sometimes we say that it's low priority, high severity, and medium priority and low severity. So these are the few tags that we are going to apply. Okay. So if somebody asks you what is priority is like how emergency or urgency of the issue should be fixed. Okay. Issue about like, we are talking about like issues and the test cases. Priority test cases in the sense the major important test cases that should be executed. Priority can be considered in two terms. One is like test case and defect. When we are talking about the test case, how important the test case is. And when we are talking about the defect, how emergency or urgency of that fix should be given. And severity, if you are talking about the severity, what is the impact of this? For example, if you are trying to log into this application with valid username and password. Okay, so here we are entering valid username and password. So what is happening here? We are not able to log into the application. So what is the impact of this? This is like high impact. It is showing high impact because we are not able to log into the application. Okay. But in case like it is low severity and high priority is like I'm entering the username and password, valid username and password, and clicking on submit button. But I'm not able to log into the application. That is high priority. But low severity is like I have a workaround. Workaround in the sense the developer has given some fix, like it is now I'm able to log into the application from the backend. Okay, so backend he has provided some other interfaces wherein I'm just trying to enter valid username and password. Then I'm clicking on login button. Now I'm able to log into the application. This is nothing but it is high priority and low severity. Severity in the sense it's not impacting, but we have a workaround. Workaround in the sense there is an alternate way for logging into the application. So this is high priority and low severity. Okay. And we consider a few other things like what is high priority and slow priority. Low, you can see that here we have like orange HRM, but here it is displaying like orange WRM. Okay, so but there is H is missing. In place of H there is the W. This is like high priority. Okay, because logo itself is like wrong. Okay, logo itself is like wrong. So what is that is the reason like it's we say that no high priority and low severity. It is not impacting the application. Okay, you can give some examples. Okay, you can give some examples during the interviews. You can tell them that what is high priority and high severity. High priority and high severity is like we are unable to proceed further. Okay, showstoppers, network issue, server is not loading. So these are like high priority, high severity. And what is low priority and high severity is like low priority is like we are able to log into the application, but we have an alternate way of it. Okay, alternate way of it is like we can call it as like high priority, low priority and high severity. Okay, so still we have a workarounds, but in terms of this we can say that no, it's high priority and low severity and high priority. So whatever way, whichever way we want to define, we can define it. Okay, the best way to give the examples is like take the application. In that application, you have to explain them like what is the functionality of it and how do you define the priorities and severities. In case of defining the priority and severities, what we are talking is about like functionality. Okay, so now we can see that there is another example that I'm going to give in terms of high priority and low severity. Now you see, so I'm talking about like in orange HRM. So it logo is displaying is like, for example, if I take this logo, we have a brand name here, so it is not allowing me to do it. For example, we have a login page here. Okay, login. So what is the content that I have here? Login. So I'll say that login page. Now what is happening here? So it is like it's showing login page, but the content should be displayed as like login. But what is happening here? So this is nothing but it is not impacting the application, but the priority is high because it should be login. Okay, so for example, I'm giving here is like hello user, please log in. So if I say hello user, please log in, so this doesn't make any sense, right? So it should be a login. So user looks into this, that's nothing but customer looks into this and he points out, okay, what is this boss? Actually, I'm thinking that it should be a login, but you have given hello user, please log in, please rename it. Okay, this is like high priority and low severity. It is not impacting the application. So what is impacting now? Now you see high priority and high severity is like admin 1 2 3. Okay, so I'm inserting valid username and password and clicking on submit. Now what is happening? It is not allowing me to log into the application. So this is nothing but high priority and high severity. So this is completely blocking me and not allowing me to enter into the application. So that's nothing but high priority and high severity. So what is high priority and low severity? So this is like we have some cosmetic such few things which are like, you know, proper naming is not done. The page is not showing up the content which is discussed as part of requirements. All these things are like kind of High priority but low severity. Low severity is like impacting the application. Priority is like emergency. What is that urgency? Okay. So for example, Orange HRM. Instead of this Orange HRM, we have Apple HRM. So that's nothing but that is not the company name, right? So it's like they are going to sue us. That's nothing but they are going to penalize us. So that's high priority but low severity. It's not impacting. Though you have this invalid name of the company, but still you can able to log into the application and you can do whatever you want to do. That's nothing but it's not impacting the application. But what is the emergency? This is what it is very urgent that we have to fix it. Okay. So these are kind of like high priority, low severity. High priority and high severity is like unable to log into the application or showstoppers. And we have like high severity and low priority is like kind of workaround that we are going to do. Okay. So workaround, we have a workaround. It's not emergency, but it is severe case. So we are unable to log into the application, but from backend, we are able to do it. So that's nothing but we have a workaround, we can do it. So that is high priority and high severity. Okay. So here we can define based on the defect and based on the test case also. Okay. What is our test case? Test case priority. Here we can define test priority. We can say that okay, so it is like you can say you can call it as like TP1. So because this is priority 1 test case. So here in case of defect, you can still define the defect. What is the defect and what is that priority severity? What is the evidences and what are the comments that you are going to. So here you are going to provide like user is not able to log in, valid credentials. How do you attach the evidences here? So here we are going to take the snap of it. Okay, we use some tools here, snipping tools, or you have snap tools, which is going to capture the screen. Okay, so here if I say new, so you're going to allow me to this and take this screenshot and capture it, and you can save this image. So here I can put login failed. Okay, so we'll discuss about how do we define this particular defect and what is the different life cycle of the defect that we are going to discuss. Okay, you guys are able to follow me?
Yes.
Okay, so here I'm going to insert the object. So what is that object that I'm going to get? It's like from. So I'm trying to attach it. Okay, please watch this video again. You'll come to know how do we exactly log the defects. Login failed. So here it is like I'm going to get it display as icon. So now developer or somebody else is looking into the test case, they'll come to know what is the defect and all. Okay, how do we do it? So just double click on it. It's going to open the image in the. So likewise, you can see it will allow us to open this. Okay, for example, if you want to open this fine Firefox, you'll see this is what image that we have got. Okay, so this is the image that we have attached, right? I'll close it again and try to open it. So it is opening in a pane. Now you understand, okay, there is a username and password you entered, but it is showing us like invalid credentials. Okay, so developer will understand it. Okay? Then after he's going to give the fix for this. So what is the defect? What is the priority, severity, and evidences and comments that we have here? Okay, the steps we have to follow the same steps here. So this is how we define the test cases. So if you go for the previous test cases that reference here, so these are the scenarios I've defined, and these are the test cases I've written here. Okay, so these test cases would help you to automate the login page. Like sorry, we have every steps which are defined very clearly. So what is the description that we have and steps that we have to follow? What are the prerequisites and what are the expected results here? Okay, you can see all these things are like combinations that we have written. I'm going to share this document with you guys. Take it as like a reference, and you can just look into the test cases. And the other thing is like you can use this application, so Orange HRM application, and you can just log into this application and try to write the test cases. Okay, just look into the test cases as a reference here, and it's like in a general simple English that I have written, and what are the things that I have to cover as part of this login page that I've shown. So what is the first test case is like I want to validate the login page. What are the content that is displayed on the login page? Here you can see expected results and description for the username and password. Like now we want to enter into the login. Okay, enter into the application through the login. Okay, so how do we do it now? So you are going to use the different steps now. Okay, description is like verify invalid username with the valid password. Now you enter the username and password. This is invalid username and this is valid password. Click on login. So I'll get the credentials. Error should be displayed to the user on the login page. So here, these are the things which should be like, executed as part of test cases, the expected results. If it is working as expected, then you are going to write as like, as expected. And other one is like, you can add the test result. Okay. So this test result would be showing as like whether this test case is passed or not. You have to mark it as like pass. If it is passing, then you have to mark it as like pass. If anything is like failing, then you have to fail it and add the comment here. So why is it failing? Okay, failure comments that we can write here. If it is passing and few things are like, something is like not executed. So there are other states. Okay, so pending. So why is it pending? Then you can write the comment. Okay, so these comments will help you to understand what is the test case status. What is the status of the test case? Okay, so these are the basic things, guys. So test case writing is like very easy, but the thing is like our test case should be written in a creative way. We have to use a creative. So the creativity, I mean to say that we have to have the intuitiveness, and we should able to derive the scenarios on top of the scenarios that we have to write the test cases. So this is a test case sample test case template. I'll share with you. Please try to write the test cases for this. Okay, just look into the functionality. Validate dashboard. So first I've written login page, username, validate dashboard. So when I ask you to validate the dashboard, what you have to do is like log into the application, follow the steps in the test case document. Now go to the dashboard. Now you can see that there are different tiles which are available here. Okay, time at work. Okay, otherwise we can say that categories. So different categories are shown here. Time at work, my actions, quick launch, buzz latest photos, employees on leave. So these are the different categories displayed on the dashboard. Now what you have to write is like go to the dashboard and you have to validate the dashboard title. Then after, what are the categories that we have? After that, we have to validate each and every category. Okay. So time at work, you can see that there is a information displayed of this particular employee. And you can see that there is a icon which is displayed, which will help you to find out the time. Then after, you can see that number of hours logged. So likewise, you have to pick up each and every category. So here, when you look into this, here we are not going to apply any set of equivalence partitioning and border analysis. But when you are talking about this, you can see this is another test case that I've written. So there can be some set of C. What is that positive set here? So this is nothing but verify valid username, valid password. So this is some kind of partitioning, like we are going to have the valid set here. What are the invalid sets? Rest to two of them are like invalid sets. Rest to two are 3. So this is like invalid sets. So, but here we don't have any ranges, but still we can go and apply the equivalence partitioning. But how do we consider what are other techniques? Other techniques are like, now you can see based on the functionality. So when I go here to particular, okay, so here is it from one date to the dates. So these are nothing but ranges that we have. Okay, you may select the dates and you may just look into this. How many, like for example, if the person is like how many number of days he has taken the leaves. So in this case, you are going to consider quarter 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, 4 quarter. So in 1 quarter, you want to define like what is the 1 quarter? You have like Jan, Feb, and March. So this is nothing but 1 quarter. You may give 90 days, 90 days period of time, or 3 months. So that's nothing but we have a range here. So in this range, we are going to define like less than 90 days, how many days he has taken the leave. Okay. So it should be from 0 to 90. So you can select like, if you want to categorize it to 30 or 60 or 90. So that's all up to us. Okay. So here we can go and use the equivalence partitioning. So minimum of the first date, like, minimum of 1 day and maximum of 90 days. So this is nothing but boundary value analysis. So likewise, we have to check. If we have any ranges from to date or likewise, if you have anything, then we go with the equivalence and boundary value analysis. In case, for example, we have a decision table. Decision table also we can use. Let me just log out of this application. Yesterday we discussed about it, right? So we have username and password. Valid username, valid password. Click on login. It should go to the home page. Invalid username, valid password. Click on login. It should throw the error. Invalid username, invalid password. Click on login. It should throw the error. Valid username, invalid password. Click on login. It should throw the error. So this is nothing but decision table. Okay. So likewise, we have to differentiate. So based on the input, what is the output? So that's nothing but it is going to explain us like this is a decision table that we have to use. Otherwise, you can directly go with this the combinations. Okay, combinations. We have to do the combinations and permutations and combinations. Permutations and combinations are like what is possible in input and what is possible output. So these are like permutations and combinations. Okay, so this is what guys I'm going to share with you so that you can just look into this and try to get an idea how do we write the test cases. So here I've written for dashboard also. Now it is like you have to write the categories, like what are the content that is displayed under this time at work category under the dashboard. Okay, so you can see all this prerequisites that we have defined as part of, here we have prerequisites defined as part of test cases. Okay, so guys, here I'm going to stop it, and tomorrow we'll be discussing about like what is defect life cycle, and after that we'll be looking into the agile methodologies. Okay, so probably I would be getting credentials today, so I'm going to upload all the documents. Yeah, tomorrow is like Sunday, guys, so we don't have class, and Monday we'll be meeting, and Monday and Tuesday would be the last classes for this manual testing. Because we are almost hitting the end of this manual testing. Probably next week we'll be starting the automation testing. And one more thing is to remind you guys is like please enroll, and we'll be starting with automation testing from next week. So we'll be giving a new link. So those who have paid the fees and those who have enrolled, they'll be able to receive those details.
Okay.
Okay. Any doubts, guys?
They will send links to our mail ID.
No. About what? Sorry, your voice is too low. Can you be louder?
Yeah, okay. They will send the new links to our mails.
Yeah. I think they are going to send it over the message, or you will be receiving it to the mail.
Yeah. Okay. Sir.
Okay. Yeah.
In automation, you are going to explain any framework, Srikanth?
Yeah. Framework, hybrid framework that I'm going to explain, which is already designed. And for designing, we may not design the framework, but the thing is like I'll explain how do we actually use that framework.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Let's meet on Monday.